Over 77 million Sony users' accounts were recently hacked into, and customer data, including credit card details, were stolen.
In Ireland, the revenue scam has been catching out on suspecting victims. They're the latest in a growing chain of identity theft crimes. James Treacy of the Irish Fraud Bureau joins us now with advice on how to avoid such scams. You're very welcome to the show, James.
Thank you very much.
For coming
Good
in.
morning.
The horrible thing about identity theft is that in some cases you actually don't know that somebody has stolen your identity and opened up these bogus accounts until you actually go for a loan yourself.
Yeah, the vast majority, well, a lot of international experts reckon that everybody has had their identity stolen at one stage. It's just that the international fraudsters are too busy. They just haven't got around to actually using the stolen identities yet. They kind of operate on a hierarchy, so they're quite clever. So if they have a very small bit of information, which is what happened in the Sony case last week, and apparently there's been another 30 million identities stolen. So the story at the moment is that the information they've managed to hack is the email address, the name of the person, the address of the person, and the user ID. But that's enough for them to get started on.
With some of those gaming platforms, you have to provide them with date of birth, which is vitally important if somebody's trying to steal your identity. Absolutely.
So if I was one of these international criminal gangs, the first thing I would do with that data is I would set up a site to look like a Sony site. I'd probably call it like SonyFraudAlert.com, and I'd send out an email to all the 100 million people who have been caught in this scam, and I would ask them to register their details to say, listen, this is to protect you, this is from Sony, we understand that your details have been hacked. So in order to protect yourself, we want you to log on to this site to reaffirm your details, your credit card details, and even if only 1 in 10,000 fall for it, that'll probably net in 20 million, just on that one little scam.
And of course, we're told that a bank will never contact you by email, no financial institution will do that, no, the Inland Revenue won't contact you by email, but if you were to get an email like that from a source like that, you would believe it because it is an email online service.
Yeah, absolutely, and we uncovered one there recently. It was a revenue one, and unfortunately quite a lot of people fell for it because it was quite sophisticated. So the fraudsters, they tend to prey on your greed primarily and fear, and this particular one was quite good because what they were saying was you got an email to say you were due a $1,500 tax rebate from the revenue. They asked you to click onto a revenue site, and for all intents and purposes it looked like a revenue site. It had all the regalia, the logos, and it asked you to key in your bank details in order for them to give you the refund, and unfortunately quite a lot of people
did it, yes.
But our advice is never ever, a bank will never contact you in that way. The revenue commissioners will never contact you by email, so in all cases just delete them.
Well, before we came on air this morning, I got an email, funny enough, a few minutes ago from Bank of Ireland saying, we need you to verify your identity because there's been threats, etc., whatever. And I knew straight away, obviously, but that spam and all these hoax, Nigerian, you know, someone's passed away, I'm going to get 16 million euro. They've been coming in thick and fast over the past couple of months, more than I've ever seen before. You're watching, obviously, the latest scams and frauds. What's the biggest one that's happening now that people should be aware of?
Well, the big one always is card not present fraud. So that's when you're making a credit card transaction online, because you don't need your physical card, you just need a number and some security details. Now, some retailers would have additional security features, but quite a lot of them don't. They just require the credit card details. In some cases, they don't even require the security number on the back. So that's the biggest one, and experts reckon that in America alone, that's costing credit card companies over $200 billion a year alone. Okay. So it's it's probably one of the biggest businesses in the world at the moment.
You're saying the other one is with stolen post, or people are using your cards and you're not getting your bills, etc. Just what?
Well, it used to be quite prevalent. Now we always describe fraud. It's like a balloon. It's like pushing on a balloon. So you push in one area, and another scam will resurface somewhere else. Okay. So that was a big one last year and the year before, where the fraudsters will try to intercept your post. Because once you get a post, then they were going to the post office and asking to redirect the post to another address where they lived, so they could take out credit cards at the new address, so they would intercept the new credit card but the postal services are getting a bit more savvy to that and cracking down on it.
Okay. So how do we avoid it? happening to us?
Well, you can take all the necessary measures in order to protect your own personal data.
Mm-hmm.
But as you saw last week, you can take all of these precautions. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing at the moment is these major security breaches, like with Sony last week and a couple of years ago, TK Maxx. So no matter what you do, your data is never entirely safe. What we would always recommend is that you be very vigilant. So even if you are a Sony user and your data has been hacked into, make sure that you're very vigilant. Make sure you keep track on your credit card statements, your telephone bills, your bank statements. Mm-hmm. And if you ever do get a spam pretending to be from Sony, ignore it.
Just completely ignore it. I tell you what always scares me. If somebody needs to steal someone's identity, they need some kind of utility bill. You've said, you've shown us how that can be done. But they might need your birth certificate. If I had your date of birth, I can go down and get your birth certificate. I can get a copy of your birth certificate quite easily. That always scares me a little bit, that it's that accessible, because that is a vital piece of information that a scammer or somebody trying to steal someone's identity could use.
Well, these gangs, they kind of operate in kind of various different levels. So probably at the very bottom level, the criminal gangs, they actually employ people to go around bin raiding. So they would actually employ people to go around to your bins, looking for utility bills, looking for credit card statements. And some people can be a bit naive. They can actually be writing down their passwords and usernames on the post, not ripping it up and putting it in the bin. And they sell it on up the line then, and another level sells it on again.
What about all these passwords they have in place, you know, your mother's maiden name and codes and CRV codes? Surely that must protect you to a certain level.
Well, we'd recommend that you never ever use your mother's maiden name, because it's very easy to go online and find out what your mother's maiden name is. So we'd recommend that you never do that. So you should try to have, unfortunately with the Sony as well, I think they got a lot of usernames and passwords, and people, like I'm guilty of it myself. I probably have about 10 different online accounts and different credit cards, and you'd be quite lazy, and your memory wouldn't be great, and it's very difficult to remember 10 usernames and passwords. But if possible, try to do it, because if you're using one username and password for all of your accounts, you're leaving yourself wide open.
Yeah, okay.
It is scary stuff, but the key word is vigilant.
Very vigilant. But no matter how vigilant you are, I mean, with the likes of these major security breaches, you're still going to be exposed somewhat. That's unfortunately the nature of the times we live in.
Okay. Well, James, thank you for coming in and frightening the bejesus out of us.
Sorry about that.
But yes, everybody be vigilant and don't bin any household bills. Rip them up first or shred them if you can.
Okay, thanks
James,
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.